gonna get my fucking hair done eventually. Let's not comment on it. Now, I had to say this. I remember when I was younger, my mother I used to have a very close relationship with her when I was very, very young. Like, I was the food taste tester of the household because I was always basically on her hip or sitting on a stool just asking her questions and talking to her, and she would tell me stuff if she like made my favorite meals like macaroni and cheese or fried chicken or green beans or mashed potatoes or pot roast or things like that. And I had an enjoyable time getting to know certain things about her. But I do remember that something that did cause a rift in our relationship from the transition from when I was a little kid to when I got older is eventually she got tired of me asking questions about her life. She'd be like, "Oh my god, stop asking me what my favorite Halloween costumes were as a kid. I told you I only had two. I was Big Bird once. Like, that's just it. Stop asking me that question." But I don't think she realized sometimes the purest form of love is just wanting to like have be reaffirmed things, and like you must be really loved as a parent if your kid already knows certain things about you but just wants to hear your voice again and just wants to hear you speak. That's the purest form of love there is. Sometimes kids just like the attention. Sometimes kids are forgetful, but deep down, whether I forgot or whether I remembered, I was like, I would just like to have the pleasant knowledge of like bonding with my mother. I remember at some point growing up, I stopped really bothering to get super close with my whole family because I guess I said something about like, oh, eggnog. I don't think I've tried eggnog before. But then, right as I was about to say, oh, wait, I did last year, then they, like, right before I could even say that, they all simultaneously groaned and were like, oh my fucking god, Tamia, you say this every fucking year. You say this every year. Stop saying it. You've tried it before. And they all reacted so negatively that I just thought to myself, oh, oops. Like, it was just something I forgot. I don't know. Hmm. But like they insulted me and they basically said I was an attention seeker, and it's like, no, I actually genuinely forgot. But that's not the point. The point was I just was like trying to talk to my family. There were plenty of times where growing up I just got excluded from certain conversations, from things. I stopped eating dinner with them, and even when I did try, I remember once my mother just distinctly was like, oh hey Tamia, you can eat in your bedroom if you want. And I said, oh okay, thank you, good to know. And I kept eating in the kitchen with them, and then she said, go to your room, Tamia. And then I didn't know what I did wrong, and to this day I still don't, but I just went to my bedroom and ate alone because I guess that's not what my mother wanted, bitch. And I guess I'm just saying these other stories because they tie similarly back to the main point. I remember that she eventually, at the point, I asked her things about her life just to get to know her, or even things just to like test my knowledge or like tell her about new things I learned and stuff. And I could ask her a question like, oh, do you happen to know anything about like this famous historian? Or, oh, there's something about the moon or space or anything. And she would just be like, oh my god, why are you asking me this dumbass shit? Go sit on the computer and Google it then if you're really so interested. And then eventually conversations with us started happening less and less because sometimes I do that. I'll ask people a question like, oh, how much do you know about the Tudor dynasty? And then they'll say not much, and then I can transition into, ooh, well, here's a fun fact about the Tudor dynasty. Did you know that they used to use like fucking musk from like beaver anal glands as perfume because they thought lavender was going to be like associated with prostitution, and they thought that being associated with beaver butthole stank would be seen as classier than being associated with the flower that women who were not nobility wore. Like, I don't know, it's just like a conversation starter. Because I want to make sure someone knows about a topic, or that I can teach someone about something, or that they're interested. It's just a thing for me. So, I don't know. I would try to talk to her. That was just how I would start certain conversations with her. She hated it. Or sometimes I would just want to like see if she knew certain things, or tell her about things I knew about, or ask her things I didn't know. Just trying to get to know her and bond with her. And at some point she snapped at me really hard and was like, oh, you want to sit on the computer all fucking day, but you want to sit here in my face and ask me questions? No, go to the computer, sit down, and stop asking me that dumb shit. And she snapped so hard that I did. And then next thing you know, she complained for years, like, why is Tamia always on her phone? Why is Tamia never talk to us anymore? Why doesn't she eat dinner with us? Why is she always in her room cooped up? Why is she always on that laptop? Why can she go like basically days without leaving her bedroom for anything aside from just the bathroom? It's like, yeah, because you're fucking cunts. You have to realize sometimes children, like, if you have a child's curiosity or interest in your life, you have to see it as a blessing. I was dating this man recently. He had a kid who was like 9. She's probably 10 by now. We had the same birthday, sweet kid. I remember that, like, I could tell she was curious about me, because kids are kind of obvious when they're interested in someone or curious about someone. They hover, and it was like she's not around a lot of women, nonetheless, like younger ones. Like, I was young enough where she still saw me as someone who was cool, but like old enough where it's like, it's like I'm an adult, but I'm not like, oh, I'm a big scary 36-year-old. It's like, okay, this is like some chick who's like 13 years older than me, you know? So I don't know, not too far. And then like she asked me about stuff like, ooh, do you know about Skibidi Toilet? Do you know about this anime? Do you know about Death Note? And she would just tell me shit. And like I could tell that she was trying to get to know me and show off her intelligence, and like, just, it's a blessing. And I thought to myself, how lucky I am that a lovely little child wants to get to know me and like learn lessons from me and have my company and time and attention. I could even just be away from the house for a little bit, and she would like catch me taking selfies out in her garden or doing something around the house, and she would just be like, ooh, can I join you? And like she would be like, ooh, let me teach you about all the flowers around the house. I know all of the names. And she would just like educate me on anything. Sometimes she would make up lies because she wanted to seem impressive to me. And sometimes I fell for them. But either way, I just saw it as a sweet child trying to get to know someone. I'm trying not to get emotional. This is what I try not to make videos about my family too often. I'll put it like this. Dating that man was a mess, but I hope that at least some of the stuff I told him stuck with him. I think I still needed to meet him to like kind of teach him certain things about like how to bond with his daughter and what to prioritize. At least I like to think that. But I'll say this, if you have the luxury of having a child in your life, get to know it. Get to know your child, everything about them, and if they want to get to know you, see it as a blessing. If I have a child, I would tell it as much as I could about my life so it could learn from the mistakes I've made, the experiences I've had, and I would see it as a blessing, because it's like, oh, you have a lovely little human, a sweet little girl or boy or whatever who wants to get to know you inside and out at your purest fucking form. You don't need to lie to impress this kid. You don't. Funny enough, this was actually something I talked about with this ex, because at some point he was like, I don't know how to tell my daughter that like about her mother dying, but I know, well, I don't know if he still stalks this channel. If he does, then maybe he'll see this ugly ass. But either way, his ex baby mama, whatever you call it, the child's mother, killed herself in a drug infused like suicide. She didn't die of drugs, she died from a hanging, but she did hang herself after like spiraling on drugs in a motel room alone for a few days, losing her mind. I feel very bad for the way she died, because she was probably around my age when she passed away, probably even younger, which is really sad if you think about it. Now, he did not have the best relationship with his mother, and he's just kind of like, oh, well, what the fuck? How do I explain to a child that, like she's not even 10 yet, but she wants to know so bad, because she knows her mom didn't die of COVID, but she knows, but she really wants to know. Even I've told him several times, it's like, I think you just gotta rip off that band-aid. He was like, what if she's too young and can't handle it? I just let him know, it's like, you don't have to tell her truly every deepest, darkest detail. I think you might want to wait until she's middle school, but if you really think that she's going to have more breakdowns, more crash outs, more anything about it. And I just used examples from my own. Like, my mother, like, she had a lot of flaws, but at least she did try not to, like, shit talk my dad and make him look unimpressive. He did a good job of looking unimpressive entirely by himself. He was a stupid, But she did make sure, like, she communicated well that it's like they did not have the most healthy relationship. No, but still from a young age, when she told me the shit about him, she made jokes out of, like, shit that wasn't exactly funny, but still was. I think I disgustingly developed that trait of hers, which is why sometimes I can hear depressing stories and kind of laugh. Or, like, sometimes I'm able to tell my own fucked up stories with a smile, and then I'll kind of be confused, like, oh, why are you crying? Oops. I meant that as a punchline, not as a tearjerker, but at least it evoked emotion. Better than nothing. Yay. But she would tell me, like, oh, yeah, your dad used to be crazy as fuck. He used to hide in bushes just, like, as I was pregnant, because I didn't want to fucking see him. He used to hide in bushes. And then my mom used to just yell out the window, we can see you! And then, like, he'd take off running. And then she told me stories about how he used to also, like, after she had like the baby, me, I was the baby, in case you forgot. I forgot for a second. She was like, yeah, like he used to hide in the bushes, and I would tell my dates like, ooh, my baby daddy's kind of crazy, you gotta look out for him. And they'd be like, no girl, I got it, I ain't scared of no nigga. Until it's like a 6 foot something dark-skinned man, but like strong as fuck, autistic as fuck, popping out the bushes like, what the fuck you doing with my girl, cuz? And then trying to like beat their ass on the fucking front of her doorstep after coming home from a nice date. And he'd scare niggas off because he didn't want anyone else getting involved with my mother. And she told it all in a way that was like funny. It was very amusing and also fucked up. But you know, she painted a picture that was still pretty well, and she made sure to clarify like, hey, he used to be my best fucking friend at some point. He had his own trauma because he got cheated on, and this and that, and his mother wasn't the greatest, and his dad wasn't the greatest, and how his obsession with her, like, you know, she was still intelligent enough to know like how everything made him into the guy he eventually became. He became possessive and stuff. She humanized him. And so I was able to recognize his flaws, but not see him as a terrible person. It's like, okay, I can recognize that he was a crazy ass nigga over her, still is, he's disgusting. But I know his traits. And as a child, it's like, okay, I got to know that, but it didn't like tarnish my opinion of him very much. And I guess I was communicating to my ex with the child. I communicated it. I was like, yeah, just so you know, like my mom always told, like, you can tell your child, you could just tell your like, I know it seems scary, but it's not, because if you just start off with like, here, my child, like, hey Natalie, would you like to talk about your mother? And you can share like the good times between your ex, even though he doesn't remember too many good times, and he can't just say, ooh, your mom had a big fat ass, kid. He can still say something like, oh, this is how me and your mom met. Yeah, I was young, she was cute in this car smoking weed, she asked me to join her, she was just so beautiful, and I just wanted to get to know her and talk to her. And he can describe like that, and then just slowly transition into like, oh, this is like what happened, like that kind of made things tense. Like, you know, like, hell, maybe I'm just a desensitized person, but he could just, I wouldn't, if I was a kid, yeah, I didn't really flinch much when my mom told me the shit that my dad did. So simply put, he could just like be like, your mom wasn't a bad person, but she had a temperament, and sometimes that meant your dad, like me, would get punched in the fucking eye at a party because she wanted to start shit with the guy who was known for punching people. And then like he could segue that into like how they broke up, how Natalie was born as a surprise but a blessing, and then like how they didn't get back together, or like were on and off before they realized it just didn't work out. And then like how, like, it's not that hard. He could just really say like, your mom had certain mental health issues and didn't have a great family support system, and a lot happened to her that I think I want to wait before I tell you. But I, like, he could just be like, I love you, she loved you very much, and absolutely, like, I get it, he's terrified because no kid wants to hear like, oh shit, was I not worth like staying around for my mother to not kill herself. I think he could just really be like, your mother, like, he doesn't even have to say it was a suicide if he didn't want to. He could wait to bring that up until like later in life, in my opinion. That's just my morally gray opinion. He could just say that sadly she did substances and it just went wrong. Or he could just say she struggled with her mental health for a long time, and I can see the similar happening to you, and I love you as a father, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you all the love and support you need, and that you know I'm always going to be around, and that your mother loved you too. And I feel like there is a way to talk about it, simply put. But he was someone who also was like, I don't know, he struggled to get to know his child. He had certain misogynistic beliefs too. Like, I would even catch him saying shit like, oh, well, you know, I can't really bond with her as well as I would with a boy, because what do you talk about with a girl? And I said, anything you talk about with a boy. Like, even if she has a different opinion, you could still ask her shit. Like, really, it's not hard. Like, anything you would ask me, basically, you can also ask your child, as long as it's nothing too inappropriate. Like, just anything. It's not that hard to talk to children. Like, you could just be like, hey, kid, do you like silver or gold? Do you like beanies or baseball caps? What's your favorite color? What color do you hate? What bug do you hate? What bug would you love? Would you rob a bank for $1 billion And how would you do it? Lord, like, I don't know. You can get silly with kids. I don't get people who don't like kids or don't like talking to kids. They're fun and they usually don't judge too hard. Or even the asshole-ish kids are kind of funny. Natalie was not always the nicest kid. Sometimes but I recognized it as a kid who just had strong boundaries. I could be like, hey Natalie, hey, I noticed you came here as I'm taking selfies. Want to take some with me? She'd be like, no. I'd be like, oh, okay. And just brush that, like, just let it roll off my back. Because it's like, okay, that's a kid who knows what she wants. And I guess she really fucking hates selfies. And, like, little things, you know? But she was still a good kid. I don't know. So I guess the point of this video is that if you have the luxury of being around a child, get to know it. Kids aren't usually that bad. Some of them are fucking stupid. Yes! Some of them. Not all of them. But guess what? Even that's fun. Because you get, like, it's not that hard to, like, get along well with kids. You just kind of treat them as, like, little people and stuff. You know, you respect their boundaries and you recognize the world's a big enough, scary place. So if you're a parent and you've got a kid that is always, like, seemingly yapping in your ear, that's just a kid who loves you. Like, even my younger brother, I remember when I was younger, I was like 10, he was a toddler, he would get on my fucking nerves. But I still recognize that it's like, okay, this is just a little boy who really, really, really adores me. And he pisses me the fuck off and he doesn't listen. And I still don't forgive him for what he did to my Nintendogs. Oh, yeah. Oh, he lost both of my... Oh. I hold a grudge about that. Like, it's almost been 2 decades I still hold a grudge about that. I don't care that I was 10. But regardless, if you have a kid in your life, they're not that hard to get to know and build a bond with. They're very sweet. And if you got a kid who's yapping in your ear, like, just see it as a blessing and a sign that they want to get to know you. Don't push it away. Don't, like, even if you're like, why is this kid asking me this dumb shit? It's because it's trying to bond with you and it likes you, okay? Sometimes you have to tell a kid, oh, I don't know what Skibbity Toilet is, and let them show you stupid fucking videos. Because it's like, it builds a bond with the child. And then you can do the same thing back. You could be like, hey kid, do you want to know about the history of Anne Boleyn? King Henry's second wife? And then you can bore the kid back. That's like, it's... And yeah, I don't know. I feel like... So I guess the main message and takeaway of this video is kids are a lot more mature and interesting and just as deep and cool and loving and emotional as you can be. Like, if you have the chance to get to know a kid, take it. Like, not in a groomer way, but in like if you're a parent, or if you are like a step parent or something like that, it's like, try. You know, it would mean a lot. It makes a world of difference, 100%. Really, it does. If you have a kid that's a yapper, don't push it away. If they want to get to know you, don't deflect. If you have a chance to get to know them, get involved. If anything, something good that happened is like, my ex, when he was dating me, he did kind of come up to me and he was like, okay, I don't know how to handle this, but my kid might be a furry. What do I do? Because I'm not into it, but I don't know. And I just explained, like, everything I knew about, like, Therians, and, like, I told him, like, hey, like, there are certain communities that will hurt her, but as long as you, like, communicate with her, like, this, and that. And I just told him the main takeaway is, if you treat your kid like they're an op, they aren't going to come to you about things. If you treat your kid like a friend, but then know when to step in gracefully at the right moments, then it can be so welcoming. Like, I'd say that if me and my mother had that bond, or me and my, I don't even like calling him a father, just that. And let's not even include him. If me and my mother had that bond where I could have came to her about anything, a lot could have been avoided in my life. But since she didn't have that, make it feel like she was a safe space at all, because she wasn't, it led to me doing certain things out of secret or being involved and invested in the wrong people. I knew how that was like, so I just told him, even if you don't like it, even if you're not interested, it's still good to be involved. Like, you know, you could have limitations on certain things she can do, like, you know, but yeah, she probably doesn't really believe she's an animal. She just thinks it would be cute to wear, like, cat ears and a tail, and she's, like, 9. She'll grow out of it. Like, you know, I told him shit, too. I said, when I was, like, 9, I thought I was gonna be a Russian spy. You know, when I was 9, I thought that I was Storm from X-Men, but guess what? That passed after a few years. It's like, you know, like, the good thing is, I remember when I thought I had powers, or of being, like, psychic when I was younger and stuff. Like, my mom actually did entertain it, she was like, but she, you know, she just was like, I guess I'll keep an eye on it, and she did, and then, lo and behold, it was a phase that came and went. She did good in that aspect. In other regards, like, my interest in anime, not so much, because instead of being able to talk to her about anime, I was in certain chat rooms with certain not-so-good people, and, yeah, I just told him, if you're afraid of your kid like being, I wouldn't want your kid to get groomed. Just like monitor her online presence. If she's like, look, I found out about this community, then don't shut it down. Be like, oh, what's about this community? What do you like about them? Open the doors for the conversation, because you can always learn more, and then she'll naturally tell you certain things that she might have otherwise hid from you. And if you're someone she feels like is a safe space, she won't search for a safe space in other people that are bad, and you can actually gently let her know, or occasionally sternly step in to be like, ooh, not this type of guy, sweetie. I love you, but not this type of, like, these people are too old and they shouldn't be talking to you like this. But meanwhile, in this other, like, that's what you're supposed to do as a parent. Like, you don't have to be best friends. No, sometimes I caught him doing that. She would kind of be an asshole. I can say that. He said that himself. She was sometimes a little bratty. And then he would reward her with snacks or whatever. But I get it, because he loved his daughter. He did. But still, it's like. But either way, what I'm trying to say is he did well, because he was like, okay, so instead of just saying, fuck you, kid, being a furry is weird and disgusting, and you can't be a cat person, that's strange, which would have put a drift between them, he went, all right, we can test it out, but only at home, not at school yet. What would you like to do? What's your fursona? And even though he wasn't interested that deep, he was kind of like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. And then, hey, like 6 months passed, and she has like cute little cat ears that she wears when she's in Japantown, or a nice little furry tail that clips onto her outfits and matches her like drip and stuff, and she looks fucking cool as fuck. And then they have a super cool bond, and like they bond over it now. Instead of like it being a point of contention, it was a point of acceptance, and it made their bond stronger. And that's what I mean. If you have a chance to get to know your child, don't shut down the opportunity. Embrace it. You will have an amazing bond with your child, and that is extremely lovely and necessary. Anyway, I think I've made this video long enough. So yeah, peace out.